Alrighty, everybody, I wanted to show you the end product of the Kyle Concannon rebuild. This has got a little bit of backstory to it. Kyle was the customer for serial number 1 of the Stormcrows. He got the very first one that was kind of prototypey, and he wasn't super happy with it originally. I made some revisions to his knife based on his suggestion. Originally, this was way back in, like, I want to say February or January. It was during the time I was moving out of my apartment, moving a bunch of stuff out of my apartment into my house. And I remember being on the phone with him for a significant length of time while my wife and I were cleaning up over at the apartment. It was pouring rain outside, just a nasty situation, probably, I don't know, 34 degrees and pouring rain. It was terrible. And I remember walking outside of my balcony being freezing cold and talking to the guy. Anyway, he made some suggestions back then, and I made the revisions based on his suggestions. And then when he got it back, he mentioned a couple minor things, like flashing that was left over from the reaming process on the thumb ramp, and his pocket clips sitting up, and therefore not having quite as much retention as he wanted. And he didn't say that he wanted to send it back for a second round of revision, which I would have gladly done. He just kind of went quietly off, and so I was like, okay, well, I guess he's satisfied with this knife. I don't really know. Of course, I do want my customers to be satisfied with their knives. It's kind of important to me. I sign by hand on the side of my blade my personal signature, and I want people to be happy with their knives, right? Whenever I put that on the side of a knife, it means that I'm personally invested into the function, the fit, the finish, the general experience of the knife. I want you to be happy with it. And so to me, it's like, okay, well, I guess he's happy with it. He's gone away. I'm not hearing anything back from him. And then at some point, I guess during the summer or early summer, maybe late spring, he starts going on my Instagram page and starts like telling my other customers, like, oh, Will Moon's such a terrible guy. He's an awful, terrible human being. Don't do business with him. If you've bought a knife from him, ask for a refund. All this other stuff, right? I'm thinking, well, that's kind of odd. Last I heard from him, he seemed like he was satisfied with his knife. He hadn't brought up any serious issues, and I didn't hear anything from him. And so I was like, okay, well, I do the same thing that anybody else gets when they're trolling. I don't really care if he's a customer or not. At some point, if they're trolling and they're trying to interfere with your business, you just ban them off of your Facebook or your not your Facebook, your Instagram page. And so that, of course, doesn't preclude you from getting in contact with me. I have a email address, and Kyle has my phone number. Again, like I said, we've been talking on the cell phone, and he had my phone number, all my contact information. It's like you just lose your Instagram privileges if you go and be a troll. It doesn't keep you from sending an email or making a phone call. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry, I hate to have to do this, but you're gone, dude. You're booted. And then Kyle, I guess, goes dark again for a couple of months. And then Dr. Frankie, Frank drops his video about my Stormcrow, and it's pretty negative. And I've been in touch with Frank about that already. We're going to see what we can do to fix that problem. Correct the issues that he brought up, address it with maturity, and get a permanent fix in for the knives. Because again, like I said, at the end of the day, I want you to be happy with your knives, And Frank knows what the issue is with communication. Being a reviewer for him, he gets a knife after I send knives to customers. Customers come before reviewers, and this is right before Blade Show and yada, yada, yada. I'll talk about that in another video, I guess. But, right after that, like the same day, Kyle decides, okay, now's my chance to go and hurt Will Moon one more time, I guess. And so he goes on a Facebook secret group, basically. It's the knife sale and trading feedback group or whatever it is, and starts this big giant thread about how terrible I am and that I've blocked him off of my Instagram page, and therefore he can't contact me. Which is kind of ironic, because when he sent the knife back with him, it had my business card in it, which has all my contact information, including my email address and my phone number. So I'm not sure how being banned off Instagram precludes you from picking up the phone or sending an email. Again, kind of not rocket science. I want him to be happy with his knife. Rather than him contacting me, I had to find out through a third party about this because that group has me blocked. I have a personal grudge. Well, I don't have a personal grudge. Doug Burgess, the guy, one of the admins there, and Sean Murphy they both have this like grudge against me because they think that I treated his friend Mark Mayo poorly, which is not the case at all. Again, another ridiculous drama story. Mark was a customer, came over locally, and he wanted me to fix a Shirogorov knife for him, and I was like, it's not my job. Like, I don't fix Shirogorovs. You need to send that back to Shirogorov. And he thought that I like spat in his face and was really mean to him. That's not the case at all. I brought him over, actually had him in my shop for a couple hours. We were, perfectly cordial, and I don't know what he's talking about. And because of that, Sean's apparently friends with this guy, and I guess Doug is too, and they think I'm like this terrible human being for some reason. But again, I digress. I'm not part of this Facebook group that they run. Kyle starts this big giant thread on it, so I have to find out about it through a third party. And I then reached out to Kyle. He didn't reach out to me. I reached out to Kyle and I said, hey, can I make that right for you? Because he was talking about, he wanted to do this big old pass around with Doug Burgess. And he's like, oh, I got this screwed up knife. Let's do a pass around. And so that's obviously, that's not good. If you got a messed up knife, the thing to do is not to do a pass around, is to get in contact with the maker and let me correct the problem. And so I reached out to Kyle again. And I said, hey, can I fix that for you? And he was talking about a couple things, the detent issue, which Frank brought up. Again, I told Frank I have a fix for this, and as you can see, when I brought it in, I've had it for about a week, and I fixed the detent. Kyle mentioned that the centering was off. Really, that was actually an adjustment problem. He had the screw tightened down too much on the pivot. And I know that he was doing some pass around with Doug Burgess, and Doug Burgess was coming back and saying, well, if I loosen up the pivot any, it's going to rub against the inside of the frame. That's not true, Doug. You're just wrong. I loosened it up about a quarter turn, maybe an eighth of a turn, and as soon as I did, it centered up just perfectly. I haven't altered anything else about this knife. This is not a new blade. This is the exact same blade, and if I held it up in the right light, you'd see, there's light. It's even on both sides of the knife there. It's kind of hard to see because it's a clamshell design, but you can see it does not touch the frame. But of course, the detent issue's gone now that Kyle brought up. Back when I initially had talked to him back in the early spring, or late spring rather, he had mentioned the flashing, so I took care of that. Took care of his pocket clip. Actually put a new pocket clip on the knife because the new ones have a countersink that's a little lower than what he had originally. And of course, I gave him a nice polish, fixed up his blade because it had been used, resharpened the knife, took a nice high grit satin finish on there. Just made it really nice. Put a new lock bar in with the new design that's got a nice early lockup. No blade plate at all. It's rock solid. No lock stick. The thing flips open great now. And, the knife is in great condition. I can't see any conceivable way that you wouldn't be 100% happy with this. Now, for his trouble, I'm going to give Kyle a free Moon zipper case. Now, these are cases that I started sewing here, or started having sewn. They're made out of nice suede material. They're embroidered, hand stitched, the whole thing. Nice fleece lining, a little nicer than the Ace case that it came in originally. I'm going to send it back to him along with my business card that had all my information on it. The knife is fixed. Again, like I said, it took me about a week. I wanted to make sure that I looked at it with fresh eyes a couple times because this is important. Again, I'm sure this will be under a very, very fine microscope. Probably finer than it really should be considering the circumstances. But I wanted to make sure that I at least told the story, what's going on with this knife, because when a person goes on a Facebook page that I'm not a part of and they tell their side of the story, you never hear my side. And that's really unfortunate. I mean, a lot of these groups, they don't believe in freedom of speech. They don't believe that a person accused should have the ability to respond to their accuser. And so, and a lot of times, people get this really bad idea of me. And it's a thing that's been going on with Blade forums for a long time. Their moderatorship has actually actively gone out and advocated against me. At some point, I probably could have legal recourse. but I haven't gone that route because I'm more interested in making positive, refinements to my work, concentrating on positive development, making sure that my products are as good as they possibly can be, making sure that they're good and everybody's happy with my stuff, and that's kind of the way out of that, I think. But again, I wanted to make sure that I at least put the story down on camera so that people can see the knife, they can see the fixes, they can see the the improvement to the knife, the demonstrable fixes that I've done to this design over time, that have taken this from being something that people kind of were ragging on, and now I think it's actually a really nice world-class knife, something I would be proud to own and put in my own pocket and carry around. So, Kyle, I do hope you like the knife. At the end of the day, I don't hold any animosity here. It's unfortunate. A lot of the aspects of this whole transaction have been unfortunate and frustrating to me on a lot of levels. But I do, at the end of the day, want you to be happy with your knife that you get from me. I understand the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that go into getting the treasure to put into this, and it should be an heirloom piece that you hold on to for a long time. It's not a disposable thing. This is a very high quality instrument. At least I hope it is, and hope you agree. And I hope you enjoy it. I really do. I mean, I'm not trying to be flippant here. I really, really do. I put my heart and soul into the knife, and I think it shows. I think it's a nice knife now. It's really a much finer piece, and did a lot of improvement to it. And I'm going to send it back out now. So, yeah, I hope this goes over well. I hope it's received as well as I hope it is. And I guess we'll go from there. I'll stop rambling on. I'll see you guys later. Bye.